Hey guys, so we're here today. We're going to be doing the best blueberry muffins. And what I want to do is I want to run through ingredients, make sure you guys have mise en place to everything. You should also have your oven preheated to 425 and spray your muffin pans. Now some of you are going to be getting these liners. These are actually a little taller than normal, so I have actually not sprayed the bottom. If you have the shorter muffin liners, I suggest you spray the pan after you have the liners in, just to make sure when that muffin top rises that it doesn't stick to the top of that pan. All right, so the first thing I want you guys to do is we're going to make almost like a blueberry jam that's going to go inside these muffins. So in a small sauce pot, what I want you to do is go ahead and add your blueberries. And if you noted on the recipe, there are 3 spots that there is granulated sugar. So we're going to make sure that we are keeping those sugars separate. So in with the blueberries, you're just going to add that 1 teaspoon of sugar. And we're going to cook this on a really low heat until it starts to make a jam. So I'll be right back. Okay, so the blueberries are cooking. Now when you're going to stir those blueberries, make sure you're using a metal spoon. We don't want to be using anything like wood. Those blueberries will stain. So in one mixing bowl, I want you to mix together your all-purpose flour, your baking powder, and your salt. And just have that off to the side. And then in your second bowl, you're going to have your sugar, and you're going to add your 2 eggs. And we're going to go ahead and whisk this together until it's very well combined and almost fluffy. Okay, so our eggs and our sugar, I'm going to break up those yolks, and I'm going to go ahead in here and I'm going to whisk all of this together. And those eggs are going to help dissolve that sugar. Now the other thing you could have done and you should have had ready is your 4 tablespoons of butter. You want to go ahead and have that melted already and starting to cool. And I go ahead and I add that 1/4 cup of oil in with that butter. I'm going to go ahead and combine the two. I'm going to put my oil in with my butter. And then you're going to whisk your butter and your oil in with this mixture slowly. So your butter could still be a little hot, and we want to make sure that it doesn't cook those eggs. Okay, next we're going to add the vanilla. And the 1 cup of buttermilk. Now remember, I sent you the recipes with substitutes for buttermilk, whether you want to do dairy-free or create the buttermilk at home. So that's all of our liquids. And I'm going to go ahead and get our flours going. Okay, so now I want you to grab your rubber scraper, kind of mix your flour, your salt, and your baking powder together. And what you're going to do is add all your flour to the wet. And using the rubber scraper, you're going to fold and mix it in without over mixing it. Okay, it will be lumpy, but that's okay. Kind of fold and stir it in. Scrape those sides really good. Get down on the bottom. Okay, keep an eye on your blueberries. Okay, again, just do a light little fold there towards the end. Don't worry about some of those pockets. Okay, so we're gonna let this mixture set off to the side. And then what I want to do is I want to go ahead while my blueberries are cooking. Let's do our topping. So this is a 1/3 cup of the sugar, and it says 1.5 teaspoons of the zest from the lemon. I'm going to zest the entire lemon, and then I can use the other lemon, the remainder of the lemon, for something else. But remember, when you're doing the zest of a lemon, just kind of go over it one time. You want to get just the bright part of the lemon, not any of that white. It's going to make it bitter. So continue to go. All right, I'm going to continue to do this, and I'm going to check on our blueberries to keep my eye on those to thicken up, and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I zested that entire lemon into that little bit of sugar, and what I like to do is I use the back of the spoon and mix it and really push the oil that's in the zest of the lemon into the sugar and really combine those really well. You can do this with any citrus. If you were wanting to cook or do anything, like you could use this lemon sugar for on top of cookies or even in a tea, if you like that. So you almost, if you could see, that sugar is almost going to completely turn yellow. May clump a little bit. That's just because, again, we're adding that moisture to that sugar. It smells so good, though. I wish you guys were here. Okay, so this is actually our topping to the blueberries muffins or the loaf pan or whatever you're going to be doing. Okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side. And what I want to show you guys, because the blueberries have been cooking for just a little while, but I want you to see they've completely broken down. It's still really saucy, and when you drag your spoon through it, you can see it still has a lot of liquid. So you need to start watching it at this point, okay? It's going to take about maybe just another 5 minutes. Don't burn it. You'll be in trouble. Okay, so just a little bit longer. You can see that blueberry syrup thickened up. Don't get it too thick. Remember, I didn't give you guys 2 cups of the blueberries. So I still see some blueberry sauce, and there's chunks of blueberries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put this off to the side, and I'm going to allow that to cool, because we need to go ahead and start getting our batter into our muffin pans. So take that mixture, I'm going to fold it just one more time just to kind of get out the remainder of the lumps. And you can see it's really thick, okay? So I'm going to use the larger cookie scoop. This isn't a muffin scoop. This is one size smaller. It's about, I'm going to say, 2 heaping tablespoons. And what I want to do is you're going to put a little bit of the muffin mix in the bottom of each one of the paper liners, okay? Two more. Okay, then some drip. Okay, then I'm going to take, the bottom of the pot is still a little warm. Okay, I'm going to take my blueberry jam that we basically made, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on the top of each one, and I can always go back and add more. So maybe start with a tablespoon, just a little bit for each one. to go back and I'm going to even it out. You don't want to throw away any blueberries. Sorry. Get all of that sauce in there. Okay. Then I'm going to go back with probably about a half of a scoop. So you can always add more, and evenly, you have to do it for every one, add more of the batter right on the top. And you're not going to have any batter left over either. So I'm going to start adding a little bit more towards the end. Okay. Scrape down my bowl. Okay, it's not like, oh, I already used all of it. There's no batter left. Okay, so add more into each one. Sometimes you can see which ones need a little more. Okay, scrape it down one more time. And I'm going to go with this one right here. Okay. Now you're going to do kind of like the little swirl. So I find the easiest thing to do is take a butter knife and kind of go in and almost fold the blueberries. I kind of do an up, down, back and forth, and then stop. Okay. You don't want the entire muffin to turn purple. So you're going to have some swirls of purple from the blueberries. You'll have chunks of blueberry in the middle of the biscuit or the muffin. And then you'll see some batter as well. If you continue, the more you stir, the more purple the inside of your muffin's going to be. I always try to avoid getting too much of that jam down on the bottom because it will and can burn. So they do turn out pretty brown. So you can see though, if you had added just those blueberries into the batter whole, not cooked, you wouldn't have had such a strong blueberry flavor. And plus you would have had a lot of liquid that would naturally come off the blueberries, and so your muffins would be really wet. So we kind of thicken it with the sugar, sweeten it, intensify, I'll get that out, the flavor of the blueberries. Okay. Then, this is the best part. Take that sugar mixture, and I'm just going to use my hand, and sprinkle all that sugar, a little bit on each. You can always go back and add more. And as it cooks, that sugar's going to melt and kind of crystallize and give this little sweet crust right on the top. Now, some people say, can I do brown sugar? We should know the answer to that. The answer would be no. Brown sugar has that molasses in it, which then creates more water. So it would actually make a little bit too burnt or too liquidy on the top. So I have a little sugar left, but I'm going to go back. It starts to melt right in. The blueberries are still a little warm, but use all of it. Don't waste any of it. Put it right in there. Okay, so my oven has been preheated. Again, I told you 425, and I'm going to cook these for about 17 to 19 minutes. Now, put them in. Halfway through, you're going to spin them. Don't forget. Okay, so maybe set the timer for about 8 minutes, 9 minutes, and spin this halfway through so the front comes to the back. All right, I'll see you when they're done. Okay, so I have turned the blueberry muffins. They've been in the oven for about 9 minutes. So while we're on our final 9, I thought I'd show you guys these parchment muffin. They're a little bit more rustic, but what I wanted to show you is that you can actually make these. Now, I had bought these probably for some event, but they are just a square piece of parchment. Happens to be a darker color. So just in case you want to make those instead of using one of the other type of liners, take your parchment, and what you want to do is you want to cut it into a square. So I'm going to cut it first. I'm going to fold it like a triangle, and I'm going to remove this excess piece of parchment so that I am. So when I can use this, I can cut that into some little squares as well. So take your square piece of parchment and just fold it in half square, okay? And then in square again. Let's see, this is probably a little bit bigger of a square, so they would be a little taller. And then what you want to do is go ahead, open it up, and cut your squares. You can do this with a scissor, or if you can remember how to run your knife. Nice and sharp knife right down the edge. Okay, and down the other side. Okay. And if I said these are a little too big, I can cut them down just a little bit. Okay. And then, like I said, I want this square. Okay. So then you would take your parchment square, and what I did is I made a triangle, and then I actually make another triangle, and then one more triangle, and that's actually going to help. And then I kind of had the center right here, and I'm going to fold that up just about maybe half an inch to, maybe more, like less than a quarter inch, just to kind of give it a little flat bottom. And then what it will do when you open it up, okay, and you take your muffin pan, you'll see there's a little folded square right there, which will help you kind of find your center. And then it will naturally start to fold on some of those creases. And just push it down on the bottom, and then you will have your parchment. Once you start to put your batter in there, it's going to help hold it down. I would do one and then maybe put a little bit of batter in it to hold it, and then do your next one. If you put all of them in here at one time, they kind of might pop out on you. But once you start getting some weight in there, they will fold up really nice. And it kind of gives you a nice little rustic muffin pan. All right, I'm going to go check muffins. All right, you guys, I just pulled them out of the oven. After that, I rotated them a couple more times. I had to go just a little bit longer. Just be aware, if you start to smell like you think they're burning, maybe turn your oven down 25 degrees, increase your cooking time after that second flip, maybe by a couple minutes, and just watch it. Sometimes the blueberry syrup or the sugar that maybe got on the outside starts to burn a little bit. So hopefully it's not the bottom of your muffins. You can always double pan, which means stick another muffin pan underneath. That will give you that little bit of air gap, and that will help the bottoms not to burn. So I'm going to let them cool. Hope you enjoy. I'll see you guys.